You're in a board meeting, you pull up a number and AI generated for you, and someone asks the obvious question. Where did that come from? And for half a second, you hesitate. Did it pull that from the actuals or did it just make it up? That little flash of doubt is the reason most finance teams still don't fully use AI. In our world, a number you can't trace is a number you can't defend. I want to take that objection head on today. I'll show you what it looks like when AI actually holds up when someone questions the numbers using a special tool you probably don't know about. Then I'll get into the part I'm honestly more excited about. You can bring your own AI, something like Claude or ChatGPT, and point it straight at your own data. We'll cover asking your models questions in plain English, and the two that surprised me the most, pulling live benchmarks off the web and getting a board deck built for you without ever leaving the chat. Quick disclosure before we start, Abacum sponsors this video and I sat down with the team to walk through every feature you're about to see. As always, I'll tell you what I think is genuinely useful and where I'd still want proof. Let's start with trust, because everything else sits on top of it. Most AI demos do the same thing. They show you something flashy. A chart appears out of nowhere, a summary writes itself, and nobody in the room asks the question you'd actually ask in your job. Can I stand behind this number when my CFO pushes on it? That's the real bar in finance. The question was never whether the AI can produce something. What matters is whether you can explain where it came from and defend it when someone pushes, and whether you're certain it didn't invent a figure just to fill a gap. So as I walk you through what Abacum can do, I want you to keep score on one thing the whole time. For every feature, ask yourself, do I still know where my numbers come from? Because that's the test that decides whether any of this is usable or just a party trick, right? Let me show you the features. Let's start with how you create a workspace or dashboard, what Abacum calls a space. In the past, you'd build one from scratch. Now you come up here, describe what you want, and it generates the space for you. You can pick one of the preset use cases and it pre-fills the prompt. From there, you've got two options. You can hit generate right away, or you can refine the plan first and preview what it's going to build before it builds it. That preview step mattered more than it looks. You're not handing the AI a black check and hoping. You see the plan, you adjust it, then you let it run. And here's the part the Abacum team was careful to explain to me. This new approach takes a little longer than just chatting with the agent, and that's on purpose. It's designed to work from your connected data and show its reasoning, rather than guessing to give you a fast answer. In finance, I'll take a few extra seconds for a number I can trust over an instant number that I can trust. You can do the same thing in plain English inside an existing space. Ask it to build a P&L table. Ask it to break that down by entity. Change the time frame. Once you're happy, you drop it straight into the space and keep editing from there. Now that question I always get on this. What stops someone from asking the AI something they shouldn't see? The permissions you already set up inside of Abacum still apply. If you ask it how much a specific person earns, and you don't have rights to that data, it won't answer. The AI doesn't get a backstage pass around your access control. That's a small detail, but it's the difference between a tool finance can actually roll out and one that gets blocked by your own security team. There's a bigger win hiding in there too, and it has nothing to do with the setup. Think about your head of sales. They've got an Abacum login, zero interest in learning the tool, and they want to see the top 10 accounts by week. Instead of waiting on you or sitting through training they'll never use, they just type the question and get the view. The learning curve that usually keeps non-finance people out of the system mostly disappears. That to me is where it gets really interesting. During setup, you've got a customer success team helping you anyway. The real payoff comes months later when people who'd never touch a model are pulling their own answers and they're not bothering you with yet another ad hoc request. Trust doesn't only come from the flashy stuff though. A lot of it comes from clean inputs. Garbage out is still the oldest rule in FP&A. So here's the data cleaner. You know the mess. The same vendor entered 4 different ways: Google, Google Inc., Google Ads, all sitting in your data as if they're separate companies. You point this at a column, describe what you want, give it a name, and it spins up a clean version you can use as a proper dimension in your reports. If you've ever tried to do that by hand across thousands of rows, you know how helpful this automation can be. Next to that, there's the classifier. This one's for cases with too many variations to write a clean rule for, like categorizing cash flow transactions. You train it on a sample, upload it back, and its confidence climbs as it learns your patterns. Takes a bit of work up front. I'd rather be straight with you about that than pretend it's one click. Then there's anomaly detection on your models. It watches your variables, learns the normal range from your history, and then flags the outliers automatically. You can tune how many months it averages over to set that range. But watch what it does when it catches something. It doesn't change your data. It flags the point and asks you for the reason. The AI surfaces the outlier, you supply the judgment. That's the right division of labor. And because it lives in the space, it replaces the old habit of scattering comments and conditional formatting everywhere just to track what logged off. Last AI tool in this group, the forecaster. Pick your level of detail, down to the customer if you want, and it builds a forecast of your historical data. Your actuals show in one line, the AI's forecast in another, and you can hold both side by side. Treat it as a fast first draft or as a quantitative baseline. Then bring your own judgment before anything goes out the door. I'm a big fan of driver-based forecasting, and it's a fantastic complement to an AI-generated baseline because it has opposite strengths and weaknesses. The AI forecast has no human biases and is excellent at spotting trends in data, but it ignores upcoming changes, of course. And the driver-based forecast takes nuances, context, and upcoming impacts you know about into account. More forecasting models are on the way here, so this is one to keep an eye on. If you want to poke at any of this yourself, there's a link in the description to take a closer look at Abacum. Go see where it fits how your team actually works. The next part is the one I'd have wanted to see years ago. Everything so far lives inside Abacum. The MCP flips it around. It lets you take an AI you already use, Claude in my case, but Gemini or ChatGPT or Copilot or any other AI tool you already have work the same way if you have the right plan. Then you can connect AI directly to your Abacum data. And you can run it right inside Slack if that's where your team lives, so you're not even switching windows. Let me show you what that opens up. Start with a plain question. What's my total headcount? It jumps into your models, pulls the right variables and scenarios, and answers. And you can keep going from there into revenue per head, cost per head, the kind of follow-ups you'd normally build a whole tab for. This is where the outside AI definitely earns its keep. The thing is, Abacum's own agent doesn't reach out to the web, Claude does. So you can take your real revenue per head number and ask it to compare against industry benchmarks. And it goes and gets them. Your internal data meets outside context in one place. Here's a second one I love for the day-to-day pressure. 5 minutes before a board meeting, you can ask it what the board is likely to push on based on the actual numbers in your model. It's a prep partner that reads your data. And then the request I hear constantly from finance teams: help me with my slide decks. I know many who openly admit they love Excel, but I haven't met a finance leader yet who says the same about PowerPoint or Google Slides. But with the MCP, you can tell Claude to pull the data and build the deck in your own brand colors and format, and then you tidy it up from there. You can even upload your existing slides as a template, so Claude follows the exact same fonts, colors, everything. Because the thing we all dread most after the close, turning the numbers into a presentation, gets a serious head start that way, right? And I asked the obvious finance question, the one you're probably thinking: what can it write back into my system? Right now, nothing. The MCP is read-only. It reads your data, it doesn't change it. And honestly, I'd argue that's a strength, at least right now. Because one of the biggest fears people have with AI in finance is that it overrides something and you don't catch it. Read-only takes that fear off the table completely. It's the easiest possible way to get a nervous team to actually try this. Because the worst case is simply that it reads the wrong thing, which you can easily verify. There's one more group this helps, and it's a group you know well, the people who will not give up their spreadsheet. Abacum has an Excel connector for exactly them. You set up a pull once, choose the model, the version, the scenario, where it lands on the sheet, and after, it's just one click to refresh. It pushes too. So if your marketing team wants to keep entering their inputs in Excel, they can, and it flows back into the Abacum model in the cloud when they're done. If you're a Google Sheets shop, it's a different setup but the same outcome. You point an auto sync at your sheet, choose actuals or a version, and then it keeps them in step. Slightly different plumbing, same result. Your data and Abacum stay connected. Here's why this matters for the whole trust story. You can have Claude, Excel, and Abacum all working together, but Abacum stays the layer underneath, the governed source where the trusted data lives, fed from your actual systems. The spreadsheet and the chatbot are how you work with the data. Abacum is what keeps it reliable. So let's come back to where we started. The number in the board meeting you weren't sure about. You might be thinking, I could just paste my data into ChatGPT and ask it the same things. And you can. But think about the difference. When you open up a blank chat box, you're starting from nothing and you're trusting whatever you pasted in. When you start inside Abacum, you press a button, you get options, and the data underneath is live and connected, with every number traceable to its source. One of those you can defend in front of your board, the other you're hoping holds up. That's the whole point of all of this. Impressive isn't the goal. What you actually need is AI you can still stand behind when someone asks where a number came from. That wraps up the series on Abacum. We covered modeling that doesn't break, driver-based forecasting and scenarios, collaborative budgeting, and now AI you can actually trust. If you want to look at Abacum for your own team, the link's in the description. And if these breakdowns are useful, subscribe so the next one finds you. I'll see you in the next video.